Crumpled dreams. The Tesla dealership's mirrored facade presented Walter with his reflection, a crinkled map etched by years of sun, wind, and judicious choices as he tugged at the bill of his worn ball cap, the ghost of a defunct auto parts logo clinging to its fabric, and stepped inside. Icy air, laced with the scent of treated hides and an indefinable synthetic tang, enveloped him but a young man, all sculpted cheekbones and rehearsed charm, peeled himself from a pod of equally polished colleagues. "Welcome to Tesla. What brings you in today?" Walter shifted, the small bag slung across his chest biting into his shoulder, looking to inquire about a car. The salesman, identified as Chad by a gleaming name tag, subjected him to a practiced perusal. Walter recognized the routine, the silent valuation based on outward appearance. He'd donned his Sunday best, a meticulously pressed, though slightly frayed, plaid shirt and burnished work boots. "Certainly," Chad replied, his smile unwavering, though perhaps a hairbreadth tighter. "Which model piqued your interest?" Walter inclined his head towards a radiant Model S. "That one's appealing." He knew the models inside and out, the specs a second language, the charging durations and range statistics more intimately than Chad likely did, but he wouldn't betray his hand. Let them underestimate him. Chad launched into a well-worn soliloquy regarding performance and sustainability, features and financial arrangements. Walter listened with patient nods, his gaze roving over the immaculate showroom floor. He'd done his homework. The price loomed in his mind, a king's fortune compared to the clattering pickup he'd nursed for 2 decades. "AT last." Chad paused, inhaling deeply. "So, what are your initial impressions? Shall we discuss figures?" Walter unslung the satchel and gently placed it on the pristine counter. He unfastened the clasp and, with deliberate care, began withdrawing stacks of currency. Mostly smaller denominations, singles, fives, tens, each bundle painstakingly arranged and secured with elastic bands. That Chad's smile wavered. He glanced about uneasily, as if anticipating a hidden camera crew. "Sir, we accept cards, and, of course, financing is available." Walter ignored him, continuing his meticulous count. Years of saving. Each relinquished pleasure, every economized expense funneled into this endeavor. This wasn't merely about acquiring a vehicle. It was about affirming something profound, mostly to himself. That a young woman, likely a recent graduate, browsed nearby, her attention arrested by the spectacle of the elderly man tabulating what looked like a small treasury. With stealth, she produced her phone and began to record. The light was ideal, the angle flattering. This was gold. Walter reached the final wad. He raised his gaze to Chad, his denim-colored eyes steady. "This is what I have." Chad stared at the cash, his face a tableau of disbelief mingling with discomfort. "Sir, I'm not sure that will suffice." Walter knew it wouldn't. He remained thousand shy. But he yearned to gauge how close he could get. He needed to feel the tangible weight of possibility within his grasp. "I understand," he said, his voice low but resolute. He began repacking the money, his movements measured and unhurried. The young woman ceased recording. She hesitated, then addressed Chad. "Was he seriously trying to buy a Tesla with cash?" she inquired, a hint of amusement coloring her tone. Chad sighed heavily. "Apparently." As Walter exited the dealership, the sinking sun stretching his silhouette behind him, the woman uploaded the footage to TikTok. Her caption read, "Old man tries to buy Tesla with savings. Pleading face #heartbreaking #Tesla dreams #saving goals." Within moments, the video gained traction. Algorithms worked their unseen magic, thrusting it into the feeds of millions. Comments trickled in, then gushed. "Ah, this is so sad. He probably toiled his whole life for that." Capitalism at its most brutal, dreams dashed by dollar signs. "He should have invested in crypto." Faced with tears of joy, "I bet he can't even operate a touchscreen." This is precisely why universal basic income is essential. Fake, scripted, all for clout. Some rallied to Walter's defense, emphasizing the inherent dignity in his effort. Others ridiculed him, questioning his financial acumen and antiquated methods that a scattering offered practical suggestions, recommending he consider pre-owned models or investigate government subsidies. The video propagated like wildfire, leaping from TikTok to Twitter, then to Facebook and Instagram. IT was deconstructed, dissected, and remixed, each iteration layering on fresh interpretations and critiques that IT morphed into a meme, a symbol, a contention. One comment, submerged in the torrent of sentiments, stood apart. That's Walter Finch. He possesses more knowledge about electric vehicles than anyone I've encountered. Don't judge a book by its cover. But the algorithm remained indifferent to nuance that IT amplified the emotional responses, the outrage and the compassion. IT reduced Walter Finch, a man of unwavering grit and profound expertise, to a symbol of shattered aspirations. Oblivious to his sudden notoriety, he steered his aged pickup homeward, the burden of his satchel, now diminished, pressing against him. The vision of the Tesla, for the present, remained just that, a vision, tweeting empathy. Elon Musk flicked through his Twitter feed, his leg jittering a nervous rhythm against the desk base at a cacophony of Doge-related memes. SpaceX milestones and pointed political commentary swirled on the screen, but he raked a hand through his unruly hair, a ghost of rocket propellant clinging to his fingertips. Sleep, a rare indulgence, had been further curtailed by the red eye from Boca Chica, leaving him buzzing with a wired fatigue. Then it appeared, a low-res, vertical video, the kind that went supernova on TikTok and trickled onto Twitter. The simple caption read, "Tesla dream denied." He tapped it. The shaky footage revealed an elderly man, his face a map of disappointment, engaged in a tense exchange with a polished salesman in a bright Tesla showroom. The audio was indistinct, but the silent language of their bodies spoke volumes. The man, clutching a worn satchel, seemed diminished, crestfallen. The salesman, radiating practiced charm and insincere concern, dripped with patronizing indifference. Musk replayed the clip, then again. There was something about the old man's unwavering gaze, even in defeat, that struck a deep chord. IT wasn't merely the Tesla logo in the background. It was the palpable longing, the visible embodiment of a dream hovering just beyond his grasp. That drive, that relentless pursuit of an improbable goal, was a feeling he knew intimately. He'd seen it reflected in his own eyes countless times, that a surge of something unfamiliar washed over him. Not quite guilt, not exactly sadness. Perhaps it was simply empathy, a sensation often buried beneath layers of ambition and innovation, yet still smoldering within the machine. The comment section was a predictable cesspool of outrage, ridicule, and detached cynicism. But Musk's attention remained fixed on the man's face, the laugh lines around his eyes hinting at a life fully lived, a life that clearly held a deep appreciation for the company he had built. He snapped his laptop shut. "Find him," he commanded, the words sharp in the pristine quiet of his office. His assistant, Sarah, a veteran in the art of unflappability, barely registered the abruptness. "Find who, Elon?" "The old man in the video. The one trying to buy the Model S with his life savings, probably. The one they're effectively mocking." He gestured impatiently at the closed laptop. "Locate him. Discreetly, did I want to know everything. Name, address, favorite ice cream." "The works." Sarah nodded, her fingers already dancing across the keyboard. "And the objective once we have him located?" Musk paused, tapping a pen against his teeth. He hadn't fully articulated it. Even to himself, the impulse had been purely instinctive, a visceral response to a raw moment of human vulnerability captured and amplified by the unforgiving lens of social media. He could easily dismiss it as a soft spot, a momentary glitch in his typically streamlined focus. But the image of the man's face persisted. "I don't know yet," he confessed, a rare crack in his carefully constructed persona. "But he deserves better than to become a meme, that he deserves something more." He rose and began to pace the confines of his office. "I want the whole team on this. PR, legal, engineering, everyone. I want a full accounting of how this transpired, how we prevent a recurrence, and how we make amends." Sarah, accustomed to these sudden eruptions of intense focus, simply acknowledged the directive and disseminated the order. Within moments, Tesla HQ in Palo Alto thrummed with a renewed sense of urgency. The video had gone viral, yes, but had also struck a nerve, exposing a vein of humanity within the corporation's technologically advanced heart. The team mobilized. Pinpointing the man proved surprisingly challenging. The video offered scant leads, and the dealership in the background was deliberately blurred. They cross-referenced purchase histories with video timestamps, scoured local news outlets, and even deployed facial recognition technology, all while treading carefully to avoid drawing unwelcome attention. Musk insisted on quiet efficiency and, above all, respect. The last thing he wanted was for the man to become a public spectacle. Hours bled into one another. Fueled by caffeine and nervous energy, Musk loomed over Sarah's shoulder, antsy and impatient, but he understood the potential for disastrous optics. Should news leak of his involvement, the story could easily be respun as a calculated PR stunt, a cynical ploy to capitalize on another's misfortune. But he pushed the thought aside. This felt bigger than brand perception. It was about honoring the spirit of aspiration, the unwavering commitment, the sheer audacity of a man who dared to reach for a future that seemed impossibly distant. The engineer's legacy. The assisted living facility's fluorescent tubes buzzed a listless tune, a fitting backdrop to Walter Finch's quiet reverie. He occupied a chair near the window, the meager winter sun offering scant warmth. Gnarled branches, like arthritic fingers, scratched at the leaden sky outside. But his gaze was inward, lost in a gallery of phantoms. Flashback. A pungent cocktail of ozone and molten solder saturated the cramped garage. The younger Walter, wiry and intense, was bent over a cluttered workbench, his expression a mask of concentration that a disarray of wires, circuit boards, and eviscerated motors painted a portrait of tireless dedication. It was 1978 that gas-guzzling behemoths dominated the asphalt. Yet Walter envisioned a different tomorrow that he placed his faith in the hushed potency of electricity, a pristine alternative to the noxious fumes plaguing urban centers. He tweaked a potentiometer, his hand rock steady despite the advanced hour, a small electric motor coughed to life, its reedy whine a hymn of possibilities, the modest proof of concept. Nothing more, yet entirely his. He imagined a future where electric vehicles skimmed silently through cityscapes, fueled by potent batteries and groundbreaking motor architectures. Blueprints already materializing in his mind. Present. Walter sighed, the memory leaving a bittersweet tang on his palate. The world had, in a sense, caught up. Electric propulsion was no longer the stuff of dreams. Still, the fulfillment of his youthful ambition felt incomplete. He had poured decades into his work, toiling in anonymity, securing patents that were either acquired and shelved or simply disregarded. He lacked the resources, the connections, the sheer force of will necessary to translate his concepts into reality. Flashback. Years later, inside a pokey office at a failed tech incubator, Walter sparred with a venture capitalist. The man, polished and condescending, tapped a pen rhythmically against his teeth. Look, Finch, your technology is intriguing, but too niche, too pricey. There's no viable market. Walter, his voice strained with suppressed ire, retorted, but with judicious investment, we could. The VC silenced him with a wave of his hand. We're hunting for disruption, Finch, not incremental refinement. This strikes me as mere puttering. The word was like a slap. Puttering. That was how they devalued his life's pursuit. Present. His gaze drifted to the small, framed photograph gracing his bedside table that a youthful Walter, radiating pride, stood beside a prototype electric vehicle he had assembled from spare parts, a cherished memento of hope, now coated in the dust of years. The viral video that it wasn't about a Tesla. It was about a lifetime of unrealized aspirations, that a lifetime devoted to believing in a future that had dawned, but without him at its helm. Across the metropolis, ensconced in a luminous office at Tesla headquarters. Ava Sharma pored over a file marked Finch, Walter. The video had been expunged from most major platforms, but not before she had retrieved sufficient data to initiate an inquiry. Elon's enigmatic directive, find him, amplify his impact, hung heavy in the air, both a challenge and a riddle. Ava, a seasoned researcher, harbored skepticism. The entire episode smacked of a calculated PR exercise. However, as she delved deeper into Walter Finch's past, her cynicism began to erode. Patent applications, technical documents, even time-worn photographs of nascent electric vehicle models, a pattern surfaced. Walter Finch was no mere disgruntled senior citizen, that he was an engineered, a remarkably adept one. By all accounts, Point .1 patent, filed in the late 80s, detailed a groundbreaking battery management protocol bearing a striking resemblance to certain technologies presently employed by Tesla. Another presented an avant-garde motor design that, according to her contacts, was years ahead of its time. She navigated to an online forum catering to electric vehicle aficionados. That a thread entitled Unsung Pioneers snagged her attention. Several posts lauded Walter Finch, extolling his ingenuity and lamenting his absence of acclaim. Finch was a true visionary, one entry proclaimed. He pioneered regenerative braking systems when GM was still struggling to perfect the carburetor. He deserved immeasurably more recognition. Ava leaned back in her ergonomic chair, her brow furrowed in thought. This narrative transcended the simple indignity of an old man being denied a test drive. IT was a saga of innovation, tenacity, and the often brutal realities of the technology sector. The chronicle of a man who had committed his life to a dream, only to witness its realization by others. And now, Elon Musk, the ultimate disruptor, sought to amplify his impact. Ava remained uncertain as to what form that amplification would take, but she grasped one fundamental truth. Walter Finch deserved to have his story chronicled, and she intended to be its teller. She closed the file, a newfound resolve stealing her features. This was no routine assignment. This was a pursuit of equity at a factory of dreams. The air hummed with anticipation as the modified Tesla Model S, its suspension subtly adjusted for Walter's comfort, glided to a stop before the sprawling Tesla factory. The building was a shimmering testament to steel and glass, reflecting the clear California sky. Walter, assisted by Ava, emerged, squinting against the sudden brightness. He felt a nervous tremor in his hands, a stark contrast to the unwavering gaze he tried to project. This wasn't some polite visit to a historical society. This was electric. Elon Musk, radiating an almost palpable energy, was already striding towards them, his hand outstretched. "Mr. Finch, it's an honor that I'm Elon." His grip was surprisingly firm, his eyes crinkling at the corners as he smiled. There was a genuine warmth in his greeting that instantly eased Walter's apprehension. "Mr. Musk," Walter replied, his voice a little shaky. "The honor is all mine. Though I confess, I'm still trying to wrap my head around all this. No need for formalities. Please call me Elon. And as for wrapping your head around it, well, hopefully today will help. Come, let me show you around. Think of it as a factory of dreams." He gestured towards the entrance, a subtle invitation to step into a world Walter had only dared to imagine. The interior was a symphony of controlled chaos. Robots danced with balletic precision, welding, assembling, and painting with tireless efficiency. Sparks flew, illuminating the vast space in brief, dazzling bursts. The air, though filled with the metallic tang of industry, was surprisingly clean, a testament to Tesla's commitment to sustainability. Walter, usually confined to the quiet stillness of his assisted living facility, was overwhelmed. He craned his neck, trying to absorb every detail, his mind racing to catch up. "We're constantly refining the process," Elon said, his voice barely audible above the din. He led Walter through the battery production line, explaining the intricate chemistry and engineering involved. He spoke with a passion that was infectious, his words painting a picture of a future powered by clean energy. Walter listened intently, nodding occasionally. His own ideas, long dormant, beginning to stir. They paused before a massive casting machine, its molten metal glowing with an otherworldly light. "This, Mr. Finch." "Walter," Elon corrected himself. "This is the gigapress that IT allows us to cast large sections of the car's frame in a single piece, reducing complexity and improving efficiency." Walter reached out a tentative hand, feeling the heat radiating from the machine. "Remarkable," he murmured. "I always envisioned something like this, fewer parts, simpler assembly, but the technology, it was just beyond our reach back then." Elon turned to him, his expression thoughtful. "But the vision was there, that's what matters. The technology is just a tool, that's the vision that guides it." They continued the tour, moving through the paint shop, where robotic arms sprayed flawless coats of vibrant color, and the final assembly line, where the cars slowly came to life, each one a testament to human ingenuity and relentless innovation. With each step, Walter felt a growing sense of awe and a bittersweet pang of regret. He had glimpsed this future, felt it in his bones, but circumstances, and perhaps a lack of resources, had kept him from realizing it. Finally, they reached a quiet corner of the factory, a small, glass-walled office overlooking the entire production floor. Elon gestured for Walter to sit. "I want to talk to you about your patents, your designs." He pulled up a holographic display, showcasing Walter's original sketches and technical drawings. "Ava showed me everything, that it's remarkable. Your work anticipated so much of what we're doing here." Walter leaned forward, his eyes fixed on the display, that he recognized his own handwriting, his own meticulous calculations. A wave of emotion washed over him, pride, regret, and a flicker of hope. "I always believed in the electric car," Walter said, his voice thick with emotion. "I knew it was the future, but nobody listened. They called me a crackpot, a dreamer." "Well, some dreams take longer to realize than others," Elon replied, a hint of steel in his voice. "But that doesn't make them any less valid. In fact, it often makes them more important." "Tell me, Walter, looking at what we've accomplished here, what are your thoughts? What would you have done differently?" Walter paused, considering the question. He looked out at the factory floor, at the robots dancing, the cars taking shape, the future unfolding before his eyes. I wouldn't have given up so easily," he said softly. "I would have fought harder for my dream." Elon nodded slowly. "It's never too late, Walter, it's never too late." He smiled, a glint in his eye. "And I have a proposition for you." The unexpected insight. The Model S, a crimson jewel under the stark factory illumination, stood as a testament to Walter's stalled ambitions. His hand, trembling slightly, traced the car's sleek flank, the chill of the metal a sharp contrast to the almost palpable energy radiating from Elon Musk. Their tour had been a dizzying dance through a domain of robotic limbs and humming machinery, a technological ballet that stirred both awe and regret within him. "Captivating, wouldn't you agree, Walter?" Musk's voice sliced through the industrial clamor. "The fruit of years of labor, unwavering focus, and an unyielding quest for the cutting edge." Walter inclined his head, his gaze drawn to the graceful slope of the roof. "Indeed, truly striking." However, a familiar unease coiled in his gut. He was about to dissect the creation of a man who held the very key to his professional resurrection. Musk arched a brow, a glint of amusement flickering in his expression. "However, please proceed. I value candid assessments, particularly from someone with your unique background." Inhaling deeply, Walter retreated a step, appraising the car from a fresh perspective. The drag coefficient must be exceptional, yet at elevated velocities, particularly when contending with lateral gusts, that rear projection, it introduces needless disturbances in the airflow that you're sacrificing efficiency, albeit marginally, and compromising stability. He gestured towards the subtle upturn of the trunk. A more decisive camback, a cleaner severing of the tail section, would dramatically diminish that turbulence that you'd concede a minor amount of storage, perhaps, but the enhanced aerodynamic performance and handling would more than compensate, especially during extended drives. Walter braced himself, anticipating Musk's response. dismissal, or even annoyance seemed likely he was, after all, a forgotten figure offering unsolicited advice to a modern-day Prometheus. Musk, however, remained silent, his brow furrowed in thought. He circled the vehicle, his eyes tracking the lines Walter had highlighted. Retrieving his phone, he swiftly photographed the area, then tapped out a message, presumably dispatching the images to his engineering core. Intriguing, Musk remarked. Finally, his tone pensive. We've conducted simulations, of course, countless hours in the wind tunnel, but you have a point. The data suggests a negligible impact, but under actual conditions, with fluctuating wind patterns, your observation regarding crosswinds is particularly keen. He pivoted back to Walter, a genuine smile illuminating his features. We prioritized aesthetics, a streamlined, visually appealing silhouette. Aerodynamics were a consideration, but perhaps we leaned a shade too heavily towards form over function in that specific region, that it's a balancing act, invariably a balancing act. A wave of elation washed over Walter that he hadn't merely identified a shortcoming. He had proffered a workable remedy. He was still relevant, still capable of contributing meaningfully. The years invested in his garage sanctuary, the countless nights spent immersed in blueprints, hadn't been futile. It's not a critical failing, mind you, Walter clarified, suddenly compelled to temper his remarks. Merely a minor refinement opportunity. Musk chuckled softly. Minute refinements can yield enormous advantages. Walter, every incremental improvement counts when you're stretching the boundaries of possibility. This is precisely the kind of thinking we thrive on. He clapped Walter on the shoulder, a gesture imbued with surprising warmth. You perceive nuances that others overlook. You grasp the underlying physics in a manner that simulations and data analysis often fail to capture. It's instinctive, a true engineer's sixth sense. They resumed the tour, but a subtle shift had occurred in the atmosphere. Musk engaged Walter in a vibrant dialogue concerning battery technology, soliciting his insights into cell chemistry and thermal regulation. He treated Walter not as a relic of the past, but as a respected peer, a valuable resource whose accumulated knowledge was worth exploring as they traversed the factory floor. Musk's inner thoughts churned that Walter's seemingly trivial observation had illuminated a potential blind spot in their design ethos. They leaned heavily on metrics, on simulations, and algorithms, but occasionally, the most profound insights arose from lived experience. From an intimate understanding of the fundamental laws of physics, he recalled the viral video, Walter's hardships, the injustice of a brilliant mind languishing in obscurity. Initially, he had viewed Walter as a symbol, a testament to the significance of innovation and tenacity. But now, he perceived him as something far greater, a potent asset, a reservoir of untapped potential he needed to devise a plan to recruit Walter, not motivated by pity or altruism, but grounded in the sincere conviction that Walter's expertise could enrich Tesla. He had to persuade his executive team, his board of directors, that this wasn't merely a sentimental gesture, but a shrewd strategic maneuver. The challenge, he recognized, would be integrating Walter into the rapid-fire, data-saturated environment of Tesla without stifling his ingenuity or fostering a sense of alienation, that he needed to cultivate an environment where Walter could prosper, where his distinctive perspective could be valued and harnessed. As the tour drew to a close, Musk clasped Walter's hand, his grip firm and resolute. Walter, I meant every word. I urge you to consider joining us at Tesla. Give it some thought. We'll connect again soon. Walter merely nodded, his eyes reflecting a blend of anticipation and trepidation, that he understood that this was a pivotal opportunity, a chance to finally fulfill his ambitions. Yet he also knew that the path ahead would be fraught with challenges, riddled with uncertainties. He was a veteran, and adapting to new paradigms wouldn't be seamless. But for the first time in years, he felt a flicker of excitement, a revitalized sense of purpose. He possessed something to contribute, something of value, and Elon Musk, against all expectations, had recognized it. A gift and a headline. Walter perched on the edge of his surprisingly yielding, though undeniably drab, bed in the assisted living facility 07:00 am glared from the digital clock. Hazy sunlight striped the threadbare carpet. Sleep had eluded him, his mind a chaotic workshop filled with whirring gears, phantom equations, and the burning intensity of Elon Musk's gaze. Could an aging innovator truly adapt? A rap echoed at his door. Before he could respond, Ava Sharma entered. Gone was her usual Tesla corporate wear, replaced by the casual comfort of jeans and a gray t-shirt, softening her features. "Good morning, Walter," she greeted, a genuine smile playing on her lips. "Elon has a surprise plan for you. He asked me to bring you down." He trailed her down the hall, the air thick with the institution's signature bouquet of disinfectant and reheated dinners. Reaching the lobby, he stopped short, bathed in morning light. A Model S waited, poised like a predator. But this wasn't just any Model S. Its paint gleamed a deep burgundy, a shade echoing cherished memories of his own early prototypes. The license plate, Finch EV. Elon Musk leaned against it. Inscrutable, he straightened as they approached. "Walter," he acknowledged, offering his hand. "I wanted to personally deliver this." Walter stared, his vocal cords suddenly locked. He managed to swallow. "Mr. Musk, I'm at a loss for words." Musk's lips curved. "Consider it a token of appreciation for your insightful contributions yesterday, and a reminder that your work endures." He swept a hand toward the car. "It's been subtly enhanced, incorporating some of your concepts. Ava will elaborate on the technical aspects later. For now, it's yours." Ava chimed in. "We also preloaded your preferred radio stations, based on your application profile," she added. Her smile warmed at Walter's hand. Trembling, traced the car's cool, sleek curves. He'd engineered, tweaked, and dreamed of electric vehicles for decades, yet never possessed anything remotely like this. More than just a car, it was validation incarnate. "Thank you," he breathed, his voice thick with gratitude. "This means more than I can express." Within hours, the story exploded. A blurry photo, captured by a resident, headlined a local news site. "Elon Musk bestows Tesla on overlooked EV pioneer." It went viral in minutes. News outlets worldwide seized the narrative. Reactions poured in, a torrent of contrasting opinions. Some lauded Musk as a visionary, finally righting a historical wrong. "Musk restores faith in innovation," one tweet declared. Others were cynical. "Publicity stunt, plain and simple, another shot back." "Tesla needs a win after the recent battery fires." Comment sections became digital battlefields. Advocates championed Walter's deserving recognition, citing his foundational patents and research. Detractors accused Musk of exploiting an old man's circumstances for marketing leverage. Ava, tracking the online frenzy from her desk, felt a tightening in her chest. That Walter's knowledge had impressed her, but this media frenzy risked eclipsing his potential value. Even Walter's tranquil existence within the facility shattered. Reporters besieged the entrance, clamoring for interviews. The phone never stopped ringing. He fielded calls from former colleagues, newly emerged relatives, and even opportunistic venture capitalists. Eager to exploit his sudden fame, he retreated to his room, the burgundy Model S now a distant, almost fantastical memory. The elation of that morning had curdled into uneasy recognition that he wasn't just Walter Finch anymore. He was a symbol, a talking point, a pawn in a much larger game. His hand shaking slightly, he reached for the phone and punched in Ava's number. "Ava," he whispered, his voice fragile. I think I've made a grave mistake." Under the microscope, the glare from the television crew's lights felt hotter than the Arizona sun. Walter shifted in his armchair, the supple Tesla leather a stark contrast to the threadbare cushions he was used to. Ava Sharma sat opposite him, her expression a mixture of concern and professional detachment. She held a small notepad, the pen clicking softly as she waited for him to speak. The assisted living facility's common room, usually a quiet sanctuary filled with the murmur of afternoon television, now buzzed with activity. Nurses peeked around corners, residents craned their necks, and a gaggle of reporters stood just outside the door, held back by a frazzled administrator. "Mr. Finch," Ava began gently, I know this is a lot, but we need to understand how you're feeling and what you want to do moving forward. Walter sighed, the sound raspy. I feel like a bug pinned under a microscope. 1 minute, I'm happily invisible. The next, I'm this. He gestured vaguely towards the camera crew. All for a car, a beautiful car, I'll admit. But still, just a car. Ava scribbled something down. Elon, just wanted to acknowledge your contributions, Mr. Finch, that he's always been a champion of early EV pioneers. Walter chuckled, a dry, humorless sound. Champions? More like convenient props that he gets good press. I get. What? A lifetime supply of prune juice and unwanted attention. He immediately regretted the bitterness in his voice. Ava didn't deserve his ire. We're trying to manage the press, Mr. Finch, Ava said, her voice losing a touch of its warmth. But you need to understand the narrative that's being created. And right now, it's complicated. Complicated, indeed. As Ava continued her careful questioning, Walter felt a growing sense of unease that he'd lived a quiet life, filled with the quiet satisfaction of his work. Now, he was thrust into a world of sound bites, manufactured narratives, and relentless scrutiny. He missed the solitude of his workshop, the comforting hum of machinery, the tangible results of his labor. Meanwhile, miles away in Detroit, Richard Harding watched the news coverage with a predatory gleam in his eyes. The sprawling, modern office of Harding Motors, a monument to decades of combustion engine dominance, seemed to hum with a different kind of energy, one of simmering resentment. Look at this crap, he barked at his chief marketing officer, a young woman named Sarah who looked perpetually exhausted. Musk, playing the benevolent savior. The old guy looks like he's about to have a heart attack on live television. Sarah adjusted her glasses. The public is eating it up. Richard, the sentiment is overwhelmingly positive towards Tesla. Sentiment is fleeting, Harding spat. We need to plant seeds of doubt. Question his motives. Make them wonder if this is all just a PR stunt. Find the chinks in their shiny armor. He tapped a manicured finger on the screen, pausing on a close-up of Walter's bewildered face. This Finch character, he's the key. Dig into his past. Find something, anything, that we can use. Everyone has secrets, Sarah. Find his. Harding leaned back in his leather chair, the scent of expensive cologne filling the air. He saw opportunity where others saw generosity. Musk had handed him a loaded weapon, and Harding intended to use it. Back at the assisted living facility, Ava wrapped up the interview. Thank you, Mr. Finch, that we'll be in touch soon with a plan to minimize the disruptions. She offered a weak smile. Walter nodded, feeling drained. As Ava left, he noticed a young man attempting to discreetly film him through the window with his phone. He raised a trembling hand, shielding his face. The weight of the attention, the expectations, the sheer noise of it all, was crushing him. He glanced at the Tesla parked outside. Gleaming under the harsh Arizona sun, was a symbol of everything he had dreamed of. Yet now it felt like a gilded cage. He longed for the days when his greatest concern was whether he could afford a new battery for his ancient electric scooter, not navigating the treacherous waters of public opinion. The future, once a beacon of hope, now felt like a relentless tide, threatening to pull him under at a second chance. The Model S, gleaming a preposterous shade of electric blue, purred to a halt outside Walter's modest bungalow. Elon Musk emerged, radiating an almost unsettling level of energy. He clapped Walter on the shoulder, a gesture that felt less friendly and more like a brand. Walter, my man, consider this a token of our shared vision. He gestured to the car. Custom job, all the bells and whistles, and a little something extra under the hood, just for a fellow engineer. Walter stared at the vehicle, a monument to everything he both loved and feared about the modern world. Mr. Musk, I don't know what to say. Say you'll drive it like you stole it. Musk boomed, then lowered his voice conspiratorially. And say you'll come work with us, consulting gig. Pick your hours, we need minds like yours, Walter, the kind that actually built things, not just crunch numbers. The offer hung in the air, thick with possibility and fraught with the lingering anxieties that had plagued Walter since the viral video. He pictured the cameras, the interviews, the relentless scrutiny. Yet he also saw a chance to reclaim his narrative, to prove that his decades of toil hadn't been in vain. "What would I be doing?" Walter asked, his voice barely a whisper. "Helping us refine the battery tech, of course. Your work with lithium air, groundbreaking. We want to pick your brain. Think of it as a second chance to shape the future." Musk's eyes held a glint that Walter couldn't quite decipher. Genuine admiration, perhaps, or something more calculated. After a sleepless night wrestling with his conscience, Walter accepted. He rationalized it as a duty, a responsibility to share his knowledge. The validation was intoxicating. For years, his ideas had been relegated to dusty journals and forgotten prototypes. Now, Elon Musk, the man who embodied the future, wanted his input. The first few weeks at Tesla were a whirlwind that he was. Assigned a small, surprisingly quiet office, a stark contrast to the bustling factory floor he met with young engineers. Eager to absorb his wisdom, he dissected battery schematics, offering insights that were both profound and refreshingly pragmatic. He even managed to suggest a minor tweak to the Model S battery cooling system, a tweak that Musk himself praised during a company-wide video conference. Walter felt useful that he was contributing again, his mind sharp, his spirit invigorated. The unwanted attention faded into the background, replaced by the hum of innovation and the camaraderie of like-minded individuals. He even started to enjoy driving the electric blue Model S, the wind whipping through his thinning hair as he cruised down the highway. Then Richard Harding arrived. Harding, impeccably dressed in a charcoal suit that reeked of old money and quiet power, materialized in Walter's office one afternoon, but he introduced himself with a practiced smile and a firm handshake. "Mr. Finch, it's a privilege that I've followed your work for years, a true visionary." Walter, wary of anyone who used the word visionary unironically, offered a curt nod. "Mr. Harding." Harding settled into the visitor's chair, his eyes scanning the office, taking in the modest furnishings and the stacks of technical documents. "I'm with Harding Automotive. You may have heard of us." Walter had. Harding Automotive was Tesla's biggest rival, a legacy automaker desperately trying to catch up in the electric vehicle race. "We're embarking on a rather ambitious project," Harding continued, his voice smooth as polished chrome. "A next-generation battery technology that will revolutionize the industry, and we believe your expertise would be invaluable." He paused, letting the implication hang in the air. "I'm already working at Tesla, Mr. Harding," Walter said, his tone deliberately neutral. Harding chuckled a low, dismissive sound. "Tesla? Yes, a fine company, no doubt. But let's be frank, Mr. Finch, they're flashy, all sizzle, no steak, as they say. Harding Automotive, on the other hand, is built on a foundation of integrity, tradition, and respect." He leaned forward, his gaze intense. "We're prepared to offer you a substantial consulting fee, Mr. Finch, at a fee that reflects the true value of your contributions. And, of course, complete control over your research. No meddling from overzealous CEOs." Harding produced a thick folder from his briefcase, placing it on Walter's desk. "A preliminary contract. Take a look at it. Think it over. I believe you'll find our offer compelling." Walter stared at the folder, his mind reeling. The money was tempting, enough to secure his future and leave a comfortable legacy for his grandchildren. But the implication behind Harding's words, the veiled criticism of Musk, left a bitter taste in his mouth. He remembered Musk's initial offer, the genuine enthusiasm in his eyes. Was it all a facade? Was he just a pawn in a corporate game? "I appreciate the offer, Mr. Harding," Walter said slowly. "But I need some time to consider it." Harding smiled, a predatory glint in his eyes. "Of course, Mr. Finch, take all the time you need, but don't wait too long. Opportunities like this don't come around every day." He stood up, extending his hand. "It was a pleasure meeting you, Mr. Finch. I look forward to hearing from you soon." As Harding left, Walter picked up the folder, its weight heavy in his hands. The glow of his second chance at Tesla suddenly seemed a lot less bright. He opened the folder and began to read, the fine print blurring before his troubled eyes. He felt like he was standing at a crossroads, unsure which path to take, uncertain who to trust. The weight of the world was on his shoulders again. Loyalty and legacy. Richard Harding's smile thinned, a subtle downturn betraying his annoyance. Consider it, Walter, a lasting impact isn't forged in momentary brilliance, but an enduring consequence. Here at Harding, you'd be more than a memory. You'd be the architect of our future. Walter recoiled from the mahogany table, the chair's leather groaning a protest. Harding's opulent suite felt like a gilded prison compared to Tesla's Fremont plant's functional efficiency. He met Harding's intense stare, the younger man's ambition radiating like a blast furnace. "Richard, I appreciate the offer. Sincerely, it's substantial." He hesitated, searching for the right articulation. "But I must decline." Harding leaned in. "Is it remuneration? We are prepared to enhance the package, naturally." Walter shook his head, a weary smile playing on his lips. "It's not about fiscal matters, it's about conviction. Decades I was perceived as a crackpot, chasing phantasms. Then, seemingly overnight, Elon, Tesla vindicated my vision. They proved I wasn't delusional, that I cannot simply abandon that." Harding steepled his fingers into a spire of controlled deliberation. "Sentiment is a luxury the modern automotive industry cannot afford. Walter, Tesla is volatile. Musk is unpredictable. Harding provides stability, the chance to mold the future without the perpetual circus." Perhaps, Walter conceded, the weight of recent weeks pressing down like a mantle. The spotlight, the relentless demands, the feeling of manipulation, it was draining. But that circus, as you term it, is what propels progress, that it's not solely about constructing vehicles. Richard, it's about reshaping the world. He rose, his choice solidified. "I gave my word that I believe in this endeavor, and I cannot betray that." He extended his hand. Harding, a flicker of pique in his eyes, briefly grasped it. "As you wish, Walter. But remember, fealty requires reciprocity." Back in Fremont, the atmosphere throbbed with kinetic energy, the staccato of machinery, the whine of servo motors, the singular focus of the engineers, a concerto of invention. Walter discovered Musk immersed in a prototype battery pack, his hands stained with lubricant. "So," Musk said, without glancing up, "did Harding try to poach you?" Walter chuckled softly. "Tried and failed, although they made it rather enticing." Musk straightened, wiping his hands on a soiled rag. "Good that I despise losing talent, especially those with authentic experience." He flashed a smile, a burst of unfeigned cordiality. "What tipped the scales?" Walter paused. How could he articulate the complex tapestry of gratitude, vindication, and the peculiar allegiance he felt to Musk and Tesla? "I glimpsed the future, Elon, back when few others did, that you're actively building it. Harding, they strive to preserve the past." Musk nodded slowly, his gaze riveted to the battery pack. "The establishment, they'll defend their territory with every available weapon. But the future is electric, unavoidable." He pivoted to Walter, his expression softening perceptibly. "I've been contemplating, we must leverage your expertise, those cumulative years of ingenuity, battling naysayers, invaluable assets." "What did you envision?" Walter inquired, a spark of reinvigorated purpose igniting within him. "A mentorship program," Musk declared, seizing a whiteboard and sketching with frenetic energy. "Pair you with some of our rising engineers. Let them absorb your knowledge, your foresight. They need to grasp the history, the trials, the driving why behind our actions. They must learn from someone who foresaw this coming." Walter felt a wave of emotion wash over him. This wasn't merely about honoring his past. It was about influencing the trajectory of the future. "I would find that deeply rewarding, Elon." They spent the subsequent hours clustered around the whiteboard, mapping out the program's scaffolding. Musk invariably brimmed with concepts, immersive workshops, hands-on projects, even a lecture series chronicling the evolution of electric vehicles. Walter, drawing from his extensive history, offered pragmatic advice, underscoring the necessity for experimentation, tenacity, and a healthy dose of skepticism. As twilight descended, casting elongated shadows across the factory floor, Walter, felt a sense of tranquility he hadn't known in ages, that he was no longer simply a relic, a footnote in automotive history. He was a vital component of the present, helping to construct the future. The pressure of the unwanted attention, the feeling of exploitation, dissipated, replaced by a palpable sense of direction. "You know," Walter remarked, as they were gathering their belongings, "it's ironic. All these decades, I presumed my legacy would be the vehicles I conceived, the patents I secured. But perhaps it's the individuals I inspire." Musk clapped him on the shoulder in a gesture of comradeship. "That's the nature of legacies, Walter. They rarely conform to our expectations." He paused, a pensive expression claiming his features. "And you, my friend, are only just beginning, inspiring the future." Elon's pronouncements landed like hammer blows. Bureaucracy, Walter, is a creeping paralysis. He stalked the polished concrete of his office, the glass walls offering a vista of the Fremont factory, a hive humming with robotic industry. They're questioning the mentorship budget, calling it outside the box. "We're Tesla. We define outside the box." Walter, perched on a minimalist chair that offered zero comfort, felt the weight of his 83 years pressing down. The initial thrill of becoming a mentor had dissolved into a simmering unease. The relentless media glare hadn't faded, and he felt pinned like a butterfly, each hesitant syllable and crinkle scrutinized. More than once, he yearned for the comforting silence of his garage, the scent of ozone and motor oil, the quiet company of his vintage EVs. "I appreciate the unconventionality." "Elon," Walter ventured, his voice a dry rustle. "But perhaps it's more trouble than it's worth. Informal advice, that would still be an option." Elon halted his agitated circuit, his gaze laser-focused. "Nonsense. This isn't just about guidance, Walter. It's about shaping the future, your future, and about imbuing these youngsters with hard-earned wisdom. This isn't some image ploy that I want them learning from a titan, from you." He snatched up his phone. "I'll swat down the number crunchers. Done deal." He barked into the receiver, something about redirecting public relations spend and reshaping the narrative. Walter cringed inwardly. Ava Sharma found Walter in the cafeteria, stirring a tepid coffee. She slid in the seat across from him, her tablet radiating a soft, cool light. "Walter, tomorrow's the graduation ceremony for the interns. Your keynote? Are you set?" Walter exhaled, a weary sound. "As ready as I'll ever be. I suppose I've got something drafted," but he waved a hand, a gesture of vague dissatisfaction. "It feels shallow." Ava offered a practiced, professional smile. "Don't fret, Walter. Be authentic. Tell your story. That's what connects." She tapped her tablet. "I'm also prepping a piece on a mentorship initiative, foregrounding your role. It'll go live on the Tesla blog and be syndicated across a few tech news sites." Walter felt that familiar constriction in his chest. More attention, more analysis. "Ava, isn't this excessive? I'm just a senior engineer that I use to repair cars." Ava's smile wavered for a fraction of a second. "You're far more than that. Walter, that you're an inspiration. Your story needs to be heard." The following day dawned with piercing clarity. Walter waited behind the curtain, clutching his crumpled notes like a lifeline. The auditorium vibrated with anticipation. Rows of young faces, lit with expectation and ambition, looked back at him. He felt the daunting weight of their hopes, the pressure to distill a lifetime into a few golden nuggets. He inhaled deeply, the mingled scent of new construction and nervous sweat filling his lungs. He approached the podium, the amplified sound of his hesitant steps echoing in the vast space. He adjusted his spectacles, his hands trembling almost imperceptibly. He surveyed the throng, and a memory flickered. Himself, decades earlier, green out of college, brimming with that same wide-eyed idealism. He tossed his carefully crafted speech aside. "I'm not going to regale you with some inflated saga of innovation and groundbreaking achievement," he began, his voice gravelly but resolute. "Because the reality is, much of my existence was ordinary. That I fixed cars, that I tinkered in my garage. I pursued notions that struck everyone else as daft." He paused, his gaze roving across the assembly. But I never ceased learning that I never stopped questioning conventional wisdom, and I never allowed anyone to convince me something couldn't be done. He recounted his early setbacks, the derision he faced for his faith in electric cars, the years of quiet perseverance. He talked about the value of resilience, of embracing imperfection, of discovering joy in the process itself. He emphasized kindness, teamwork, and leveraging technology to improve lives. Don't chase recognition or riches, he exhorted them. Chase your passion, chase your curiosity, and never, under any circumstances, forget the human element. When he concluded, the auditorium exploded with applause. He saw the glint of tears in some eyes, nods of recognition in others. He saw a spark of promise ignite in the faces of the future engineers. After the ceremony, a young woman approached him, her eyes shining with emotion. "Mr. Finch," she said, her voice barely audible. "Your speech to IT really spoke to me that I've been second-guessing myself, wondering if I belong. But you've inspired me to press on, to chase after my aspirations." Walter grinned, a genuine, warm smile that reached his eyes. "You do belong," he replied. "Believe in yourself and never surrender." He noticed Elon standing at the periphery, a rare, almost imperceptible smile playing on his lips. He inclined his head in approval. That evening, Ava's article was published online. IT chronicled Walter's journey, his commitment to electric mobility, and his impact on Tesla's mentoring program. IT underlined the transformational power of empathy, how a serendipitous encounter and a mutual love had ignited something extraordinary. The headline proclaimed, "From back alley to global impact, how compassion powered Tesla's future." Walter read the piece in his modest, well-worn apartment. He still felt bombarded by the attention, yet a sense of serenity descended upon him. He might not have revolutionized the world on his own, but perhaps, just perhaps, he had motivated a few young minds to make an attempt. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough. He glanced at the picture frame on his desk, the one depicting him standing next to his initial electric car, a youthful grin on his face. He had circled back to the beginning. He had begun with a vision, and now that vision was being advanced by a new cohort. He extinguished the light, the distant murmur of the city receding into a calming stillness. That he closed his eyes, a sense of meaning, delicate yet substantial, filling the emptiness that had been growing within him.